Order the 927th meeting of the Directors of MSAD 27. Roll call.
On my roll call sheet.
Oh, it's right here.
Oh, thank you. Kellyiv.
Here.
Shannon Lugden. Katie Lavasser.
Here.
David Susi.
Yeah.
Tanya was in.
Here.
Toby Jandro.
Here.
Sarah Ashley.
Here. And you have a student rep here.
We do have student reps.
We have our student reps here.
So any adjustments to the agenda?
No adjustments.
Okay. Period of public participation on items in this agenda. Is there anybody from the public who's here to speak today?
Not today.
Approval of minutes. We have meeting 9/26.
Making a motion to approve with a correction.
What's the correction?
The student representatives were here last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
What did you?
They were.
With that correction, there's a motion to approve. Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Ms. Sose, did you take Quinn's place? So Quinn's off and now you're on? Okay, so you're subbing. Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
What's the rate for a sub at the
The pay is huge.
All those in favor? Passes. Now we have financial statements.
I can make a motion to approve the July financial statements.
A second.
Second by Sarah. Any discussion?
I just have a quick question in regards to right there construction and what falls under that, just because the totals are like double this year. Or nearly double compared to last year.
Regular instruction covers what happens in the classroom, so all your classroom teachers, your any ed techs that fall in the classroom, not the special ed tech. It would cover the gifted and talented costs. So and you, I didn't look specifically, but there may be some items that were paid earlier this year than last year. An example would be your and big ticket items, probably your technology, your Milton laptop fee lease would be a big ticket item that could have been paid in July instead of June.
All right, so probably in salaries too, from this year, there was an increase in employment.
Salaries would be, these would be for just summer. Those are last year's costs that end in July.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, did we put these in the agenda?
We didn't.
I will just, before we go into the agenda, this isn't really an adjustment. This is just, we had some thank you cards from some students who received scholarships from the district, so let's hand these around for everyone to look at. So next is presentations.
We have here today Robin Jandro, who's our technology integrator, and because it's been 1 year that we've had the program in play, we thought it'd be a great idea for Robin to brag a little bit about what she's been doing and answer any questions you have.
That's right.
Thank you for being here, Robin.
Thanks for having me. We'll let this boot up, and while this boots up, I'm just going to introduce myself for those that don't know me. This is year 23 of education for me. My first year of teaching was in 2001. You know, it's 7th and 3 classroom. So I have always, and that's when MLTI started, the Main Learning Technology Initiative, and that was the start of the state throwing laptops in 7th and 8th grade classrooms saying, here, use these. So fast forward to here we are today, and they've grown a lot. I mean, we are one-to-one from K to 12 in this building and next door. That's unheard of in a lot of districts. We're lucky, we're fortunate. So my job is to, how do I best, or how do we as a staff and school best utilize the technology? Of course, there's going to be mirroring issues. So in my presentation, that's basically, I'm just going to show you guys and share with you guys what we've been doing. K to 2 is, okay. Basically, this all just completely worked perfect today.
That's how it always works.
Yes, it's great. Display settings right here. Probably help if I put my glasses on too.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're just gonna shoot from the hip here because it's not allowing me to. No, I did. Oh, there it is. I did. Thank you, Mr. Nadeauiii.
I think he just threatened the computer.
Well, no, I was actually pressing it. Thank you. As the technology integrator, here we are. Thanks, Mr. Nadeauiii.
Teamwork.
Okay, so last year it was kind of, not shoot from the hip, but I was starting to get rolling with it. Like asking teachers, what do you need in your classroom? What would benefit you? I asked over at the middle high school, and a lot of them said, "Can you just please teach the kids how to type?" And I was thinking, I can do a lot more than just teach them how to type, hopefully. But this year, I'm looking at as we reflected a lot. I asked teachers for their input. How can we best utilize? How can I better serve you, or what can I do to help you? This year, I get to go to a 2-day acting conference down in Augusta. I'm really looking forward to that because being a technology integrator, I'm kind of on an island in a lot of senses that I don't have a lot of collaborating besides within the teacher class, teachers in the classroom. And then a 4-part webinar series through the Maine School Superintendents Association, which that one is primarily focusing on AI. Now, if anybody has heard any big ticket items in technology lately, it's about AI. And AI in personal life and through social media, but also AI within schools. And how are we going to adapt to it? Because it's not going anywhere. Teachers don't want to hear anything about it, but then others are like, okay, it's here to stay. We can't feed it. How can we join it? More or less. So I'm really actually looking forward to those 4 workshops. Important parts, I'm not going to read this all to you, but just educators are preparing learners for jobs that don't even exist right now. For so long in education, we prepared, kids going through the system to be doctors and lawyers and teachers and nurses and secretaries and cashiers. We're trying to prepare learners for jobs that don't even exist yet because technology is rolling faster than we can even grasp. Why else do we want technology in the classroom? It improves so many things. It gives opportunities for students who learn differently. It allows for collaboration and communication for students who won't stand up and speak. I would have loved to have just given this presentation to you guys and sent a video to you and be like, here. But here I am speaking. I'm not a public speaker. It boosts exposure. I mean, let's be real. We live far away from a lot of cool places that, we would love to take these kids on field trips to the Railroad Museum or a dinosaur exhibit. We live far from those kinds of things. They have virtual field trips now, and we take virtual field trips in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. So it kind of exposes them to cool things that we don't necessarily have right at our fingertips. We incorporate different learning styles. It prepares the children for the workforce. My husband works in the woods. He's a logger. He has a computer system in his machine. It now calibrates the length of a log. There's computers everywhere as you go, from the grocery store to logging to teaching to everywhere. So we're just preparing our learners to be prepared for the future and whatever kind of career path they choose. Technology has just become such an integral part of society that we'd be foolish not to have it within our education system. Everywhere as you look, you see the generation, or my parents' generation. They either want the technology part, the path, or they have no idea and they can't keep up anymore, and now everything is just online, and well, I don't know how to sign up for things, and if they're not getting the memos through an email, they still want it in the snail mail, and people don't do that anymore. We got to keep up, and so I think we're just trying to build lifelong learners to be not necessarily tech savvy, but tech savvy. And I know that there's such a fine line of too much technology and not enough technology, and it's just trying to find a happy balance. And that's actually one of the curriculum, that's a big part of the curriculum that I teach, is the digital citizenship. And this is just K-1, so these are our laptop learners. Grades 2 and up, they have the MacBook Airs, but kindergarten 1 are our laptop learners. They're actually practicing coding, so they're building codes, and it starts off simple with trying to get the monkey to the banana, for example, okay? So they need to use their words. They need to use direct and specific directions to get that monkey to the banana. They just can't say, walk 4 steps. They need to be more specific and say, walk right 4 steps. So they need to turn the monkey to go to the banana. So it shows them that they need to be more specific and use their words correctly. And in fact, at that level, because they are just beginning to read and write, there's shortcut buttons that have arrows. And so it's a built curriculum for them. Digital citizenship, the internet's a big, big world out there. And I use the specific example of I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old at home. So I fib them and tell them a story about one time I took them to New York City, and I sat there with my kids and I said, okay, Mom's really busy right now, so I want you to go and explore. And I just let them go. And kids looking, that's a big city. We looked at what New York City looks like and stuff, and they couldn't believe it. I just let my 10-year-old and 8-year-old go and explore and have at it. Have at it. And then I said, well, the internet's bigger than New York City. And their wheels started to spin, and they're like, oh, and I said, well, you need to be careful of where we go. We can't just go and explore and go to God knows wherever. I'm just as guilty as the next mom. Technology has babysat my kids for a few minutes while I was busy doing something else. They had the iPads, they had the tablets, but we also need to monitor it. So we go over self-monitoring, like where are safe zones, where there's stranger dangers and all this good stuff. So we talk at their levels. How to log into apps. Oh my goodness gracious. We're still learning how to spell our names. So that's a process in itself. Like they all have email accounts. Well, we don't get into the email anytime soon because we need to master how to spell our first and last name first. So that's a big thing. Researching topics. This was kind of cool because it's the scary world when you just tell a kid to Google something, because one typo, you don't know what you're getting. So this is just one that I use, Kittle. So they get to, and I show them the speech to text and all this good stuff. And so they get to do a little bit of research and go find and explore and find pictures of what they're researching. And so that's just one of the sites that we actually use. Chatterpix is actually kind of a fun app where they get to take a picture of themselves or a picture that they've drawn, and they get to make it talk by drawing them out, and it talks with their voice. So they can use that within the classroom to practice their number counting, to practice their addition, to practice their reading. There's all kinds. We have Look It is a fun game that the kids really love and enjoy. It's teaching. They're practicing their sight words, but they're doing it in a fun way. Grades 2 to 3. This is oftentimes a transition from iPads to computers. So we have a lot of screen tapping, swiping of a screen, but it's no longer an iPad, so it's a computer. So teaching them to type. Now, mind you, these kids starting this week are taking assessments. So we're starting our benchmark, our fall assessments. Second graders have never used the MacBook Airs. They've never used them. They're taking a test on them tomorrow, starting tomorrow. So we're practicing just navigating those, how to do a 2-finger scroll versus a 1-finger scroll. So learning how to navigate, learning where the web browsers are, and just the technology, the vocabulary involved with the typing Google Docs, why you should not type a research paper in size 24 cursive font in yellow print, we start that young. Adding a picture to a document, the NUIA testing. So starting in grades 3 and up, we have the NUIA test. And every time before they take the assessment, they send out like a practice portal. So these kids get online because they're practicing what the tools are. If you're taking a math NUIA testing, or a test, they might have a protractor, they might have a ruler. Actually practicing to click and drag those rulers so you can actually precisely measure what they're asking you to measure. It gives us a better picture of their true assessment. We're not measuring, could this kid navigate our site and take the test? Or is this child showing us what they can and can't do yet? Typing Club, Renaissance testing, so that's our STAR testing that we take is Renaissance. Google Docs, just navigating and learning the different parts of how to properly close down tabs. I still see my anxiety goes through the roof whenever I see somebody's window open and they have about 78 tabs, and I'm like, oh no, no. Grade 4 through 6, so they have the experience, they can navigate those, they pick up fast. They like to start with the gaming part of things. This intrigues them. A lot of them are playing games outside of here, whether it's the video games. So they like to do a lot of coding. They really practice their coding. When they find out that gamers or people who build gaming programs build codes, it's basically what it is. It intrigues them. So a lot of, they go from wanting to be a policeman, fireman, to wanting to be a game, or YouTubers are a lot of, I hear a lot of YouTubers. The Code Monkey, code.org is another site that they use. We talk about digital footprints in social media. This is where it starts to get, grades 2 and 3, I see some kids that are on social media, whether it's Kids Messenger or just Messenger in general. But this is where they start to experiment. When we talk about the online appropriateness, we talk about, we're going to have poster contest, that's why I put this up here. Just simple, we talk about this one. This is like our motto. If everybody could just follow that, I think the internet wouldn't be as scary. Just don't be mean behind the screen. Like, it's very easy, and we talk about how easy it is for people to just blow up a lot of thoughts and wishes and not wishes and whatever else people just seem to do. Stir the pot on social media. Like, it's very easy behind the screen. Kids do it, adults do it, teenagers do it. It's there. It's easy. It's accessible. So even just having those tough conversations in class about just being careful, be mindful. If you can't look somebody in the eye and say what you're about to type, then maybe you shouldn't type it. So we keep that in mind. Google Docs, they animate slides. These kids blew me away last year when we started animating slides, and just they created kind of like mini movies. I had some students that had hundreds of slides compiled, and they were proud. And I want them to be proud because they should be. They worked really hard at it. Online safety, creating and designing. So that's where they get into the posters, and we're going to have like poster contests type, like the kids love those kinds of things. They love designing. Okay, so how do I help the staff? Well, I'm the holy cow troubleshooter. Miss Deb's working at the high school today. Something's not working, and I have one kid here. Miss Anne-Marie's busy. Like, it's everywhere. It's like, so they've given me privies to rostering, like this week, tomorrow. A kid might be locked out of a test. And the teacher's standing in front of their class, and 19 out of the kids are logged in and ready to rock and roll, and there's that one kid sitting there like, I can't log in for whatever reason. So I run down, and so I help bail them out there, collaborate with the teachers. Some teachers don't know what they don't know yet, and that's perfectly fine. They have a big job, a big responsibility, and they oftentimes don't have the time to check to see what's the best website for checking or practicing math facts. So you know what, I can give them a few demonstrations of what would be best, what do you like. There's no sense of reinventing the wheel, and oftentimes as teachers we seem to do that. Empower. Ms. Sharon and I have worked on different Empower, so I am compiling the graduation standards so teachers can actually have something on paper to flip through. Sometimes it's easier during a parent-teacher conference. This is what a kindergartner is expected to do. These are our graduation standards for a third grader, for a fifth grader. So I'm compiling that into a nice, pretty document. Classroom websites. I helped some teachers this year build their classroom website. So they're posting their work every week for students that may be out for whatever reason, or the parents want to double check to make sure student Awardii is doing their job. I've held many workshops for teachers who are interested in building websites. Or what's this Canva thing that you talk about all the time, because I'm obsessed with it. Email tutorials, how to organize their emails. Mr. Nadeauiii is like the email guru of organizing. Like he loves doing that, and he's helped me out a lot. iMovie, I was over at the building next door working with a middle school class and doing a social studies project because a lot of the kids wanted to create iMovies. So I worked with them. And some teachers, they just needed to, how do I do this? I download a document all the time and I can never find it. Where does it go? Simple little things like that. Yeah, AI, that's the big ticket item. I think that's going to be, when you talk about technology and you talk about technology and education, this one comes up. Parenting and technology, that comes up. Social media, that comes up. AI, it's nuts. It's a big ticket item. So last year I felt I wasn't on an island, but I kind of was on an island, which is okay. This year, with a lot of, teachers are awesome. Like, they're helping me help them, which is easy. This year I look forward to going to the ACTIM conference and meeting up with people and making contacts so that everybody needs contacts and ideas of how do other schools do it? I want to know. So, and then this is just, I mean, there's no truer statement than this. Technology has just become such an integral part of society that it's necessary to integrate into education. There's no ifs and it's not going anywhere, if anything. It's how do we keep up with the snowball effect of it rolling. And that's pretty much all I have. I know I was trying to be quick and not I'm not a public speaker, so. Are there any questions, or did I throw any terms out that everybody's like floored, or you just want to?
Did a really nice job, really nice slides, very informative.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome. I learned this weekend that there's an AI website, or there's a website that operates like AI, and you could, like if you have a paper to write, you just type in keywords and it writes your paper for you.
Okay, so I'm going to blow your mind with something.
Like ChatGPT, so that's
Sure.
what you're
There we
talking
go.
about.
Yeah, I can never remember it.
There's, so ChatGPT was kind of like the first one that I ever heard of. Since then,
Yeah.
like everybody is jumping on the bandwagon. So this is where I love to create this, okay? So here I am, I'm a student in Katie's class now. And Katie has presented, she asked me to do a PowerPoint presentation on Revolutionary War. So I'm coming here, blank screen. I literally just logged in. And I'm going to use this, and I'm going to say 5 battles of Revolutionary War. And wait for it. This is what we're up against, guys.
Yes.
Which one do you like best? This looks more like something Robin would have created, so please create it. Boom. Like, it's there.
What? That's cool.
It's cool, but now as a teacher, teachers are freaking out saying, well, what's the point of, where do I stand? Right?
Does it put you in the
So-
position where instead of asking the kids to regurgitate information, they have to process it now?
So now it's more of a Socratic way of thinking that the teachers are going to have to throw their way of their kids.
It's go home, use ChatGPT, write a report on blah, 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 bring it back tomorrow, and tomorrow we're going to make that better and put your spin on it. You know, it's rethinking.
It's rethinking of how you're going to ask those questions to those kids. So that's why whenever I said I was really looking forward to those webinars, and I know that there's so many different sessions at this 2-day active workshop, it's huge. It's, people are like, give me all the information, give me the help. I don't know what to do. And especially English teachers, they're kind of like, we can't beat it. How can we join it? How can we ask these questions, or how can we assign these assignments so that it's not just a chat GPT? Boom. We need to ask for more opinionated, because if you start asking for opinions, chat GPT can't give opinions. So, and it's a matter of, luckily, honestly, our school district is small enough so that we truly know our learners. And I can tell you that any of my English teachers, if I would have started using words this big, they'd be like, that's not Robin, because I don't have words this big in my vocabulary. So
that's how we're
thankfully,
that's awesome.
our teachers know our kiddos, honestly. But that's where we're at. Yeah.
Robin, in your studies and your
Oh, boy.
immersion in all of this
Yeah.
stuff, do you encounter people who also help students not to immerse themselves in technology, but to remove themselves? And the reason I say that is because just thinking about my day-to-day, and it really warps you when you're constantly responding to stimuli. Some are important, some are unimportant, but it can be overwhelming. And so at some point you wonder, here's a labor-saving device that just swallowed me whole. At some point, would it be useful if we had methods and means to explore regaining our humanity, regaining some control, some mindfulness in our life? And is that something you're encountering?
It's actually pretty crazy, because that you say that. I oftentimes find myself saying, oh my gosh, whenever I was in school, this wasn't a thing. Whenever kids can't unplug, they can't get away from anything. So even take bullying, for example. Bullying is nothing new. Bullying has been around for thousands of years. It's just done differently throughout the years. When I was in school, there was no technology. I know, I just aged myself, but that's the reality, okay? If you were bullied on the playground, you were able to get home on the go on the bus, get home, and be done with it. Now it gets worse when they get home, because the ding, 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 and then now groups of kids are added to this, and I think it's more difficult now. They can't get away from it. I don't have the fix for that, but that's actually one of this is the curriculum. It's a free curriculum, and it's very well known, very well reviewed. It's commonsense.org, and they talk about digital citizenship, and they talk about how much is too much. Finding the balance. Kids these days, and when I say kids, I'm talking about the littles. They talk about it. Oh, I love playing games. Like when they're talking about games, like when I was a kid, like there was Monopoly and card games. Now it's screen time games, and we're all addicted to the screen at some point. We are so connected that to disconnect, it almost suffocates people.
That's scary.
It is. But that's also where we're going. You know, we can't unplug, we can't disconnect. And I think there's finding the balance and being able to turn it off, and having those discussions and knowing when to turn it off. You know, we talked about 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. We had these huge conversations last year about, and I'm still gonna drill it about them being mean behind a screen or just bother. You know, I gave an example of, okay, so here's a scenario. We go through a lot of scenarios. Okay, so my child, I said, we're going hiking for the day, and you need to leave your device home. Okay, so then XYZ student or their friend messaged them while we just left. Their device is home, ding, 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 while we're gone. My daughter or son or whatever has no clue that that's happening. And then they keep dinging, and hey, where are you? What's up? Hey. 1,400 messages later, not really 1,400, but maybe 32 messages later, finally like, hey, never mind, you're ignoring me. So whenever I say that, they're like everybody not everybody, mostly, they've experienced something like that. And I said, how fair is that to my daughter, who I, as her mom, said she can't bring her device. Now her friend's mad at her because she feels like she's being ignored. So we have those discussions, and sometimes the truth hurts. Maybe they were that friend that was dinging away to somebody else, or, you know, those are tough conversations that not everybody oftentimes thinks about. So we do go over those scenarios. And so that comes along with the learning how to unplug sometimes and disconnect, trying to find a balance.
And that's something that came out in our strategic work we're going to talk about later, is that how do we promote as a district, you know, the right appropriate use of technology? How are we going to take this and even push it at a further level where, at least here at school, we're trying to educate them with all those tools to try to survive this crazy technological world.
And maybe even communicate it to parents too,
Yeah.
or something, because I mean.
Yep.
It's crazy. I mean, I'm not going to lie, especially during COVID when the world shut down and we were home. As teacher, like my cell phone, it's in my office, but my cell phone is my home phone. I have a husband that leaves for 1:30 for work. So my phone is by my bed. And people would look at me, well, move your phone to the kitchen. That's my home phone. If somebody needs me, I need to be available. But what was happening, I was getting messages from parents. I wish I was joking. 12:30 at night, 2:45 in the morning. We can't disconnect. So that's where, where's the balance? As an adult, I struggle. So just even having those conversations, maybe just with the kids, makes things a little better. I don't have my email coming through on my phone for a reason. I go in to check my email. Because one, there's a lot of spam. I'll go check it, but how do you learn those things?
And we catch ourselves, right? We have the Apple Watch, we have the iPhone, we have the iMac, we have the iPad, and all four of them are dinging at the same time and vibrating, and it's like,
Siri, I don't understand what you're saying. Here I am, like,
you know, and
you're not
it's,
supposed to be.
at some point we have to as adults model what we want for our students, and we have to change our habits. You know, do you need 5,000 friends on this messenger, or do you need the 5 that are actually
Right.
going to be your friends?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, my son will be upset, but he's 8. He wanted to try Facebook, Kids Messenger. Okay. So with a select couple friends, he was struggling. Like he wanted to go so bad. There was one day he was going, I don't even know what he was doing, fishing. And he couldn't answer, and he really wanted to be fishing, but then he really wanted to play Roblox, and figure it out, dude. I know, like, that's a big decision to make, but you need to figure it out. And at the end of the day, when he was stressed, I said, I'm figuring it out for you. Shut it down. So, he no longer has Kids Messenger, because I'm not mom, but it's
Well,
real.
part of
Like,
that
it's a
is-
struggle, you guys. It really, really is.
A big part of that is establishing priorities about what's important to you in your life. Who can, for instance, fritter your whole day away getting through the email pile,
Oh my
and at the
gosh.
end of the day accomplish nothing. Say, well, I guess I've misallocated my priorities. I don't care to respond to that. I'm going to actively try to downgrade the attention that that commands so that I can do what's important to me.
I am just as guilty as the next, where it's like, I remember, I'm going to go find that on Facebook. And then I forgot what I was going to look for. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
Yeah, what am I doing?
I've wasted time. It's a time sucker. It really is.
But maybe we should be teaching kids that, though.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, we do, and we have those conversations. But it's to find the balance of, wow, Mrs. the only one saying that. Or, you know, I oftentimes do see light bulbs are like, oh yeah. Or maybe they were the one who they had 1,400 messages missed that day. Hey. And then they do these random, like, JQBLB envelope. So we talk about social media and messenger etiquette because we do. We have some tough conversations.
It's tough too, because like Robin said it a while ago, our generation, mine and Robin's, we're about the same age.
He's older.
We are that first generation to get, thrown into technology as parents, you know what I mean, and not really knowing how to navigate it that well. So hopefully when we have, you know, the next generation be parents, and that's already started, they have a better mindset about how to, you know, guide their children. Whereas for us, it was like we were learning with our own kids, like figuring that out. That's
Right.
tough.
It was,
Yeah.
I mean, and it is, and what's the limit, and what's the, you know, I run a tight ship, or I like to think I run a tight ship at home, and not everybody does, so, well, how come, and, you know, and having those conversations, so, you know what, my poor kids, I feel bad for teachers' kids in general, but I use my kids for an example in those classrooms a lot. And then I hear about, oh, you talked about them in class? Wait till they're probably watching this on Channel 4 right now. I can't wait to get home. Sharon, do you have something?
Yeah, so just to respond to you, Dave, my son works for, I'll just say, he works for Google, right? So it's, if you want to find something out, you Google it. And when he went to work, his supervisor made him read a book. It's called Deep Work by Kellyiv. Basically, disconnect from your technology if you want to stay focused on your work. And this Kellyiv did that when in his office, because he couldn't focus. His attention span went from this to this because he was so distracted. And this was a book at a tech company that was recommended read, so he could stay focused on his work. And when he works, all technology, he puts his phone away and focuses, and it's all online, but he does not look at anything at all. Disconnected from Facebook. He does, the only thing he follows now is X, or whatever, Twitter, but other than that, he's removed everything else. And that was per recommendation of tech. So
Crazy.
it's kind of interesting that they even recognize how distracting it can be.
It's crazy, it's everywhere, so we're very easily distracted, yet we expect them to focus.
Right.
So,
Thank you, Robin.
thank you.
Where are we? To you, Superintendent.
I just want to update you on a couple of things that we have going on. One of them is a substitute teacher ad that we threw out on our social media pages and our websites. Just, you know, and I'll call again that we need substitutes. You can see that we're trying to be as attractive and competitive as possible. So we have, you know, levels of pay that were introduced this past year based on the teacher minimum salary, the main minimum salary adjustments. That might look like we have to adjust it again January 1st, depending on if the $15 minimum wage goes through. But free lunch, I mean, we're trying to do as much as we can. When we pushed this out last Thursday or Wednesday, we've already had, across Valley Unified, we've already had 8 more subs sign up. So I don't know if it's this, but it's something. So we're going to keep trying and keep pushing and keep trying to get folks to come help us out. So there's that. The other thing I had for you is I wanted to just update you on a couple of grants that our staff have received. The first one is a Comprehensive Health Record Pilot Award. Monique Michaud, Nurse Monique, had applied for this pilot, and essentially it's a $6,000 grant if you don't currently use an electronic health system. We use PowerSchool, which is not really made for health system. Kind of just have it housing some of our information. But she investigated a couple of programs, and I think the one she's decided on is the SNAP program, which is going to basically convert all of our health files to an electronic system where if we're going between schools, we can access that, and it's going to be a lot more streamlined. So Monique did write for that, and we were notified the week before last that she was awarded this for the district. So we're actually going to have it for both of our schools, for both of our nurses' office, and so we're very excited about that. And the other grant that we received was the Teach with Tech grant. We actually had 2 teachers that applied, Don Chenard and Mitch Daigle, who works at the Tech Center but is an SAD 27 employee. They both received award notifications for that as well, and their total combined award is $15,794. $15,700.94. And essentially, you had to have a component in that where you're taking whatever technology the department was offering and turn it into a project. So Mr. Chenard is going to be using 3D printers in his classroom to provide some hands-on opportunities in ways to engage struggling learners. Mr. Chenard's an English teacher, so you wouldn't think that 3D printers would fit in English language arts, but he has an idea of kind of using like a STEAM process where he's engaging in that way. And then Mr. Daigle at the Tech Center is going to be getting some cameras where he's going to be doing some different work with camera footage and that type of thing, so for his advanced technologies classes. So we're very proud of our teachers that got these awards, and we hope they continue to apply for grants in the future.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Other than that, you have your administrator reports, one from Mr. Kaletaii, who apologizes for not being here. He's actually on a college tour, and so he's probably somewhere on a bus or at a hotel room. Then we have one from Mr. Nadeauiii, one from Ms. Kelly, and one from Mr. Saucier.
I have a question for Peter. The bathroom update at the high school, I didn't see any update in that.
Hasn't been anything moved forward. We're waiting for funding. We spoke the last time I spoke a little bit about it, we were basically being proactive and looking at trying to determine, what we could be looking at. And we've had engineering force take a look at designing something for us and preparing ourselves for if and when that grant would be available, and that we would have something to do.
Are there any questions for any of the administrators? Thank you all. So, items of business?
Yeah, for old business, we had held off on appointing our representatives to Valley Unified Board just because we didn't have everyone in attendance. We still don't have everyone in attendance, but Shannon was at the last meeting, so she was able to weigh in then. We need 2 representatives, and last we had 3, so we would need to decide on who the 2 are going to be.
Anybody want to do it? I don't mind doing it. I've been there since early on, so I just need another volunteer.
What do you do?
Sporadically.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 times a year, but mostly for the budget. During the budget season is usually when we meet. I think we have our first meeting set for October, November-ish.
I think we just got to take her.
Did Shannon express her interest in doing it, or?
I don't believe she had. Did she? I think she maybe said she would do it if nobody else wanted to.
Why don't we got another meeting before we have a meeting with Valley Unified?
Yep.
We'll ask the 2 of them to arm wrestle or something.
Okay.
I'm just doing it, so. Fill the seat.
So I will do it, and then we can approve
Okay.
another person when the 2 of those 2 people get to talk.
We'll bring it back next month.
All right. New business.
Under items of information, we have no retirements. We do have a resignation. You should have a resignation letter in your packet. And this is from Jordan Ritchie. Jordan had been with us for a year as Ed Tech 3, primarily in B-Wing here at Fort Kent Elementary. Jordan has fallen in love with education and was ambitious and applied for her conditional certification to teach in hopes that sometime a position would open up. And just so happened that a position did open up in 2nd grade, which was her ideal grade level in Madawaska, and she accepted that position.
Okay.
not gonna lie, it kind of helped me out a little bit, so I know it's your loss, but.
I'll make a motion to approve Jordan's resignation. A second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
No transfers, no new hires, and then our current openings are our school psychologist and that Ed Tech 3 position. It should not say pre-K, it should say B-Wing.
Is there any update on the new band teacher? Things progressing?
Yeah, so I was supposed to get a call last Friday. That call didn't happen. This is from the agency. We got I think they're on a different time zone, so we got mixed up. I gave my availability today and did not hear back from them. But we're supposed to connect this week to find out what's the last pieces and get hopefully a more definitive timeline. When we started this process, which was back in June, July-ish, they did say it could be a 3-month process, so it's kind of looking like that's what it's going to be. Yep. Under new business item B, we have 2 trips, GT Student Council trip and also a USA Travel Club trip. Mr. Dorman was not able to attend tonight as well because he is also on that college tour. But we do have our student reps that we're going to put to the test tonight. And are we both presenting? Yeah. Okay. Have them present and answer any questions you have about those trips.
Okay, so we've been on a couple of school trips throughout the U.S. this past year. So for the GT, Gifted and Talented and Student Council trip, we went to New Orleans this last October, November. These are some pictures. We went to the World War II Museum. We saw the Mardi Gras, where they built the parade floats. We went to art museums. And yeah, there's more pictures. And that's the group size. We were about 30 people. And then we're going to San Antonio in November.
You'd like permission to go to San Antonio.
The next trip we went on was the summer trip, and we went to Los Angeles. The group size was about 50 kids. We went to San Antonio, some Broadway shows, the Warner Brothers Studios, some music parks, Griffith Observatory, and more. There's some pictures.
Which baseball game did you go to?
The Dodgers.
Dodgers.
And the next trip we'd like to go on is to Nashville, Tennessee.
So girls, what's the best thing about these trips?
Well, they're trips you don't really hear about to go with your parents. So it's a good way to go into the world and explore. And not many parents go on it, so you get to just hang out with your friends. And a lot of kids don't have an opportunity to meet some people. This is their first time on a plane. And yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite parts so far that you've been on?
Probably California.
How was it paid for?
So the GT Gifted and Talented, there's a grant. So last year we paid $300, and then everything else was covered for. Besides, we had to pay a couple meals, and then the LA trip, that one you have to pay. So I can give you the pictures about 3200.
Do you think the cost kind of decides in a way who's eligible to go? In other words, do you perceive that maybe many of your classmates would consider going because they just can't afford it?
I think maybe for the summer one, it has some, but then a lot of kids, I don't know, they just, if you think about it, these trips and what, if you would go with your family, it's a lot better to go as a school. You get a lot better, you see a lot more, and it's a lot cheaper. So if you think about it that way, but then it's an incentive to try to be involved in student council and get in, so that way you can go on those trips.
How many days long were the trips?
The student council one, I believe, was 6 days. And then the LA one was a week.
I think it was like 8 days. Now.
8, yeah.
In LA, it was a long trip. One thing that Mr. Dorman and I spoke about just this week was that point that you made, Dave, is are we supporting students that, you know, that price tag is just too much. So in speaking with Lucy, we're going to look at finding a way where we can create Mr. Dorman's done some informal payment plan type things, but if we can formalize that process, and you know it's almost a year out in advance where you can set people up with payment plans where they can really digest those, you know, that cost, rather than wait till the end and say I can't go anymore because I didn't save up for it. So we're trying to make ways to really help with that. I do know that Mr. Dorman does wheel and deal and bargain. So when these kids, you know, are paying that price, they're, other than their own spending money, they're not paying for anything. No tickets, no meals, no, everything is paid for. So it's really well thought out in that regard.
Fundraising opportunities that some kids could partake in, other than find a job and help pay yourself. But
I guess, I know for the travel club outside of the US, they fundraise. Mr. Dorman has never brought up fundraising, but it is an idea.
It's hard to compete with all the class fundraisers.
So my understanding
There's so many fundraisers.
The student council goes on one trip, and then, I don't know, who the other ones were that you said?
Yeah, so the summer one, anybody can go.
Okay.
And then the one in the fall is student council, so that's juniors and seniors. And then the gifted and talented freshmen.
Okay. And how are gifted and talented selected, or what's the criteria?
They have to be identified as a GT student, so that usually happens throughout the academic years, where either they've taken an assessment and were identified because of their percentile on that assessment, or they've been nominated and they've gone through the process. I'm not GT, so I don't know what the process is, and you have to meet certain qualifiers in order to be labeled GT.
And so they're the only ones that are offered the opportunity to go?
That's because it's under the GT grant, so the use of GT funds can only be used for GT students.
Okay.
So
these trips are not available to the class as a whole. It's just if you're student council or if you're a gifted talent.
for that trip, yes. Yeah. The other trip is for anybody. Mr. Dorman will not allow middle schoolers to attend that summer trip unless the parent goes with them. So it's typically for 9 through 12. And he has offered it to graduates before in the past as well, recent graduates if they missed a few past trips.
Do you learn a lot?
Yeah.
Any more questions for the girls? Thank you, girls.
I'll make the motion to approve the GT Student Council Trip 2023.
I'll second.
Any discussions?
Second?
Kelly.
Kelly. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? One abstention.
I'll make the motion to approve the USA Travel Club trip in 2024 to Asheville.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? One abstention.
Thank you. I did share with you the CHS VRMS student handbook link in your electronic documents because they're quite a, they're big handbook. There's a lot of papers in them. We didn't print them out. Mr. Doucette did, however, give you a summary sheet of the changes that have been made in that handbook so that you could have that. As for the Fort Kent Elementary handbook, it was pretty much a total rewrite, Mr. Netto, correct? So it's a whole new format and a whole new way of displaying that. So I hope you took the time to take a look at those. If not, I could display them if that's what you'd like, but we would need approval on those.
Have they already gone out?
Nope. Have they gone out?
Mine has not gone out.
Not yet.
The high school one's gone out.
Has high school gone out? The high school one has gone out. Yep. Yep.
It's not customary to send stuff out after before it gets approved by the board. I would say that I had a chance to look at the one from the elementary school, and it's a lot. Is it going to be a huge disservice, Robbie, to give us more time to look at it?
No.
Okay. I'd like to table that one where it's not gone out. It was too much for, I'd move to table that and have some time to review it further. Okay. It is a big change. So thank you for the work, Robbie. I didn't feel like I looked at it, but I don't feel like I gave it the time it needed.
I'll just explain, we tried to honor a lot of the talk that we talked about last year with the handbook. And the old handbook we were working with was probably about 15 years ago, and that had been copied and pasted. I think that it moved back and forth from 5 or 6 different administrators up to this point. So trying to work on it and make some of those adjustments that we had talked about last year just weren't working.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't looking good, it didn't flow right. So that's where we kind of went with the revision.
I had been working on it with Robby over the last year, and they did a pretty amazing job of, it was a lot of trying to like fit and move stuff around, and then I think after one of the previous times, at the end of the summer, it was just easier to start from scratch because there were so many things. But I think it's a really great document. It's a lot.
It's a lot, and I didn't
And we had
have the
talked
time
about,
to put into it.
We had talked about that as far as like, is anybody going to read this whole thing? And I think we were pretty aware of that. So trying to front load some stuff, bold certain things. Everything is linked to more information. So, there's a QR code, you scan it, and you pull it up.
The two things you're trying to reconcile are, it's a lot, no one's going to read all of it.
Right.
But it's also a resource for people to look at when they do have questions.
Right.
To look at.
Mm-hmm.
So there's those two things that, how much is too much, how much is not enough. So really, really hard to do. But even like a lot of in the old book, they had policies, and it was like 4 pages of that policy, where we did a quick word and a link to the policy for people to read. We'll be sending, when we do send it home, we're going to be sending home the last page, which we still have the handbook that we put separately, which basically provides a link and a QR code to the handbook, but also there's a checkbox at the bottom saying, hey, I want a print copy. So parents will be able to do it online at their pleasure, and then if they want a print copy, so which is something that's just getting from last year.
Yeah, one of the things that makes me think that we're all slipping into a very bad place is that every time you update your program, they make you check that you've read and understood the new terms of service. You might be giving away your firstborn child. Nobody reads those things, right? But everybody checks it. The only time it matters is when somebody has a legitimate complaint and they are crushed because they signed this legally binding document that said right and read and understood. Nobody actually reads that. So if we're a school, why don't we try to break that curve? Rather than having people sign a document that says, I read and understood something that I most certainly did not read, nor did I understand, and that everybody knows I didn't read, and didn't understand, why don't we just give them the book and say, when push comes to shove, guys, this is it. But let's not ask them to compromise their integrity by signing off at the end of it, agreeing that they understood all of this stuff. And then when it comes to the book itself, and I'm talking, you know, from the perspective of 42 years as a lawyer. One of the things about making rules, making regulations, is that it gets you away from a culture of doing right. Our parents, my parents, your parents are my age, grew up in a culture where they didn't have extensive rule books. There was no school handbook in 1965 or 1973. But there was a culture, and there was an expectation that was created. And it was enforced in a variety of ways that weren't necessarily written down. And there were lots of problems with that, or ultimately that could go through that system. But there were a lot of good things about it too. Now to avoid having to make difficult judgments, yes to this, no to this, with the consequences of maybe having made poor judgment, or maybe having made the right judgment, but the other side is a better lawyer than you, or something like that. People write everything down. They have elaborate codes. And so instead of relying on the instincts, wait, this is just not right. We rely on the code. But when you look to the code, you look to exceptions. We had an incident that happened here with the discharge of a firearm. And we ended up doing an interesting analysis, and I think a good analysis, of what was a firearm. But the issue wasn't the definition of a firearm. The issue was certain student conduct. What made the difference is, well, if it was a firearm, it had this rule-based necessary consequence. And if it wasn't, well, it gave you more options. So we get trapped by our own rules. This is happening more and more. And so I'm just thinking generally that writing it down is no substitute for making hard judgments. And being very specific is no substitute for making hard judgments. The reality is, every day, teachers have to make hard judgments about what's acceptable and what's not, what's an A, what's a B, and what's a C. They take the risk of being wrong. They can't resort to a rule book that says, oh, well, at least maybe they can now, I don't know. But my point is, we should all feel free to make mistakes if we act in good faith, and to exercise judgment, because what makes society work, what makes communities work, what makes school work, is a whole bunch of responsible, caring people exercising good judgment. And to the extent that you try to transfer that onto a rule book that eliminates the need for judgment, you're probably heading in the wrong direction. So that's a very long way of saying I object to having to sign the thing. But it's, you know, I think it's a problem.
And the reality is, we probably do that because of the 2 or 3% of people that are going to hold us to task. That wasn't written down somewhere, you know? But why do we do that? Why do we bend to the 2% instead of just honoring the 98%?
I like the old answer, which used to be, well, it's the right thing to do. Challenge that. You can always go to court, hire a lawyer, fight about the language. But when somebody looks at you in the eye and says, no, that's just wrong. Why do you say that? Because if we do what you're suggesting, we can't get along as a society or as a community. That's a pretty good answer. Ultimately, the arbiter of those things ought to be other people in society. In our legal system, we use juries. Because we get all balled up as lawyers and judges and it's complex legal issues. But you put it in front of a jury, and boom, they get right to the meat of it. A lot of people are scared of juries. They don't like juries. Oh, they go crazy. They do crazy stuff. My experience is they don't. They do wonderful things. They're a lot smarter than anybody else when they work collectively. When you get 12 people in a room, all well-intentioned and want to do the right thing, and you give them good information, that's the best possible way to make decisions. But are they going by a rule book? No, they're not. They're actually going by their gut, their common sense, their life experience, and what they're informed by the judge and the lawyer. What's that got to do with the handbook? Well, the handbook is just an elaborate set of rules, right? But it's no substitute for the culture of doing right and exercising judgment. All right. off the soapbox.
But you know what that reminds me of? If you scroll up 2 pages, that reminds me of the compact that we have of the student agreement, the parent agreement, and teacher agreement saying, this is, you know, I will do the right thing in the classroom and in these different situations. So,
And it's all written down right here.
well, but, I mean, sometimes it's good to have a starting point,
Oh, yeah.
as opposed to just saying, you know, you do what you think is right,
Right,
what you think is
obviously.
right, and what
Yeah.
you think is right, it might be different things, but as far as, I get what you're saying, because I am very much the same way. I won't sign something if I don't intend to follow it, I'm not gonna sign it. But this, and as kind of bridging back to the technology, right, where I kept coming back to, we are a school, we are not a substitute we're an extension of family values, but it has to be a partnership with home. And this piece of the handbook kind of lays that out. The student's going to do the best, the parent's going to do the best, the teacher's going to do the best. So even if we don't send something home, I think this is important to realign as the start of the school year for
I
what
agree.
we all think what is best. These are the things that are
It's
what are
great,
best.
great talking points too, with an
Yeah.
administrator, with a parent, with a student, you know.
I agree with that. I'm not suggesting it's wasted effort, because it really is a deep dive into what it should look like, right? But the notion that we're going to impress this upon everybody who's not going to read it.
I don't know, how many pages is it? It's a lot of pages,
It's a
like
lot.
30 pages.
31.
They might not be able to read, they might not want to read 31 pages, but I bet you could get them to read 2 or 3, you know? So maybe it would be worth sending those pages home, maybe not the acknowledgement, because, I mean, do we chase people down if they don't send it in?
Yeah, really.
Maybe you get them to sign a 2 or 3 page stuff. You know, but we- okay,
Because if you're gonna send my child home with that many pages, I probably won't have time to read it. I'll end up signing it because I think it's my duty that I have to sign something, but
I'll tell you, I read it. I read 2/3 of it. It made me very anxious. And I don't know why exactly, but the more I read, the more anxious I became. Maybe I need to explore that, but I mean, it's just my reaction to things.
We haven't gotten our clinical psychologist
Yeah.
back yet.
No, it's a book of rules, you're right. It's a book of rules and procedures. I mean, it's not
And we have to have one,
warm and fuzzy.
But we
It's-
do have, I mean, we do have rules and procedures.
right? And this,
I'm just saying, we
I
do.
understand, but our book of policies doesn't tell parents how to drop off or pick up, and if we don't include that, there is absolute chaos out there, right? So there is important information in this,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. It's hard to, and we talked about this, it's hard to draw the line. Why does this make it and this doesn't? What makes the cut? I think it's important to go out, right? That acknowledgement form if they want, or even just here's a link to the handbook, good luck. But maybe that, and also here's the compact with the parents, teachers, students, gonna do your best. Here's our
What
culture.
happens if they don't return the acknowledgement?
Nothing right now.
They never graduate.
Goes in your permanent record.
could you imagine?
No.
Well, I mean, while we're talking about this, I'd like to, is Anne-Marie? There's my kid signing a contract for their computer. I have to say that's always it's along the same lines. It's like, does my pre-K really understand that they're signing something when they can't write their name? And I wonder if maybe we're training our kids to just sign stuff they just don't understand.
My 11-year-old asked me to print out the policy so he could review it before he signed it.
No way.
But we love your 11-year-old, but he is a little different. In a great way. Yeah, I don't care. Here you go. So put it on the floor so you have to pick it up. But no, I mean, to Dave's point, I think I signed stuff that I should probably review better. And when I started reading this, it was actually the last page, after I'd skimmed it thoroughly. And at the last page, I was like, shit, I didn't read this. Sorry, I didn't even read this. Like, maybe I should read it better because we're going to be expecting other people to read this. So that brings me back to I know as a chairperson I shouldn't be making motions, but I'm going to make a motion and I was wondering if we could move to table this till next week so that we can give this the review I think it deserves.
Next week or
Next month.
Okay.
Sorry. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
I would like to, in Dave's spirit of the culture of it, right? Can we send home that compact so that we're sending home something that what we're expecting our students to do? I mean, because next time we meet is after harvest, right?
Yes.
I don't.
We could send out the whole thing as a draft.
Oh, we can send that.
Say we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ask for any public comment.
But the high school one has already gone.
That's
out.
that 4 changes to the original one. That's
Right.
not as significant a change.
Right.
This was a whole rewrite. I think, maybe we send out this and say this is a draft. The board will be discussing this at the next meeting.
Yeah.
We'd love your feedback.
We'd love your feedback.
Why not?
Yeah.
Second that recommendation.
Robby, you're ultimately the one who's going to do it. Is that okay with you?
I serve at the pleasure of the board.
We worked on that a lot.
What a diplomatic case.
Yeah.
We know what you mean.
I think I know what the subtext is here, Robby.
I think it's
So-
a great document, and I'll let you guys look through it, and I think that, as always, I'll take any feedback and move forward with it, so.
So I think the only motion we have right now is to table. That was made by Toby, second by Katie.
Yeah.
Well, it was to table adoption.
Right. Are we going to make a separate motion to send it out as draft, or that's just?
Why don't I
we're
amend
sending
my
it?
original motion to say we approve it, the board approves sending this out to the public for early review and comment at our next board meeting,
Perfect.
and we will withhold adoption of it until that meeting.
And we're just talking about the Fort Kent Elementary one.
Yes,
Please email Toby John with any questions.
yes. It's robby.nadaau@sad27.org.
So a second,
It
the
has.
motion?
It passed.
Okay.
Oh, and now we're going to vote on it. All's in favor?
We need clarification on, sorry. Lucy, ask a question, Lucy.
I don't know what I'm writing down.
So the motion has been to approve sending a draft of the handbook to families, and the board will review later.
And, well, I think yeah, that's fine. And anybody listening at home, if you review it and have any questions, it'll be publicly available to anyone who doesn't have children as well.
Yep.
I would say to the public, if they want to add comments or whatever, they can come to our next meeting and make any suggestions or share their thoughts if they wish.
And so for clarification, what's getting sent home is just that acknowledgement sheet, which has the QR code that they could go look at it. We're not sending 32 pages.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's going to be available online for
Right.
review, for early review, yeah.
Are we sending home those 2 or 3
And was
It's part of it.
unanimous?
It hasn't been voted on yet.
Okay.
So it hasn't been voted. All those in favor of doing this? Yay.
Right, it's tough because it's at the end.
How about the high school yearbook?
All those in favor, oh, sorry. We need a motion on the high school one. Didn't we already vote on this?
We already voted on this, didn't we?
It wasn't?
No, I don't think so.
No, not yet.
Huh, okay.
Motion to
I'll second Katie's motion.
Any discussion?
You say ditto to, would you say like all of your
Yeah.
thoughts on the,
Applies with equal force, yeah.
just,
I will say that the middle school and high school students, I think, have a higher level of cognition. And that makes me feel a little less bad about them approving a large document because they can read better.
More legally responsible.
Yeah,
you're saying.
yeah, I think we can bind them. No, I think that does make a difference. So, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And an abstention.
Abstention.
One abstention.
I won't vote against it, but I'm staying.
how often do you guys look at the student handbook?
Well, at the beginning of the year, we do like a little word finds thing. But other than that,
Okay.
But as members of the student council, do you refer to it at all?
no.
So what's the purpose?
I think you should have to read it before you go on your vacation.
It's sometimes you're challenged as an administrator of why we do things the way that we do, and it's good to be able to point to something without having to dig out a policy manual
And where is it made available to all parents typically?
on the school's website. The last thing I have for you is our 2023-28 district strategic plan. As I mentioned in our notes, this includes a new mission statement, a new vision statement, and we decided as a final committee to stick to 4 strategic priorities with a 5-year plan. We don't want to make it unachievable, and so we stuck with 4 strategic priorities. This represents the help that we received from 53 students spanning from grades 4 to 12, 52 school staff, which included administrators, teachers, ed techs, secretaries, administrative assistants, and also 48 parents and community members at large. We tried to make those groups as close to the same size as possible, and I believe we've achieved that pretty well. So, of course, this was done in a very different way. We had those listening sessions; those were recorded sessions. That data was downloaded into an AI system that basically just found keywords of talking points that people were saying in those conversations. From those keywords, you could clearly see themes identified. So it was the task of the team that came together at the end. That included myself, Mr. Doucette, Mr. Nadeauiii, Ms. Lugden on the school board. We also had Ms. Tamara Philbrook. We had Ms. Sylvia Dow Harvey, Ms. Gabby Adam, that were all, and Mr. Josh Nichols, that were all part of staff that were represented. And we just sorted through that data, and it was pretty clear what the major themes were. So as you go into the plan, I start with a letter, just thanking you and thanking the communities for your help in this process. I did put a page that does explain what I just summarized about the Maine 2050 initiative and how this was part of that in having these conversations. And then if you move to page 5, that's where the new work begins. Our vision statement and mission statement, of course, vision is where we're going, mission is who we are. Our new vision statement that we came up with, our vision is to cultivate a community where collaboration thrives and empowers learners to be life-ready, equipped with social intelligence, emotional awareness, and resilience through diverse learning opportunities for personal and collective growth. One of the things that was probably the loudest and the clearest in this work was life ready. We want these students to be ready when they leave us. And that takes the form of so many different things, but we definitely want, we want to be able to apply things in school that will make them successful adults. Our mission statement, we are driven by the core values of respect, responsibility, honesty, and engaged and invested learning. At the foundation, we believe effective communication, meaningful relationships, and trust are elevated through strong partnerships with our community. We are dedicated to providing diverse opportunities that empower each and every one of us to learn, grow, and reach our full potential. Our facilitator, Jennifer, the one that we worked with on this, she's done this with many groups, many schools. She says, without a doubt, SAD 27's core values are something that she's never seen before at the level that it is. And that's from the littles that she spoke with all the way to the parents. Everyone knows the core values. It's obvious that they're celebrated. It's obvious that they're honored from everything that we do. And so she did commend us for that. So we wanted to start that mission statement with a statement about our core values. Any questions on those before we go on? Do you concur? Do you? I've been part of this process before in another district, but the way that this came together in listening to those conversations, and those are publicly available, and I can get that information on how you go see that, but listening to those conversations and how that materializes into, you know, a vision like this and a mission like this. I love the way that the mission and the vision have some overlap, you know, about how we honor community and we have these relationships. Relationships is something that, you know, is spoken about a lot through this process. So we're very proud of it. Going into the strategic priorities, your strategic priority 1 is enhancing learning opportunities, and that's a big thing. And so when we were talking about how to do that, we knew that we wanted to do it across the board. So it's very easy to point to, you know, we need more pathways to graduation. Well, that's, you know, that's one thing, and it's very specific when you're in grades 9 through 12, but we need to get these kids life ready, and how do we enhance the learning opportunities to get them there. So the objectives that came out of there, A was increased student involvement in community-based learning. Peter, Karen, and Kevin Lavoie and I went to Caribou today to talk with the Caribou High School principal and their ELO coordinator. Early learning opportunities is something that the state has been working on and is really encouraging districts. We feel this is going to be a really good opportunity for our district to make customized pathways for students that are interested in career A, B, C, D. Toby, you and I spoke last week about, you know, how traditionally in the districts we were always focused on college or career readiness. That was the big push, college or career readiness. But when you think of college, there's so many different professions that you have to get people ready for, or at least mindful of. And how many of us left high school just going, I'm going to go to college? You know, we probably had an idea of what we wanted to do, but not having, you know, experienced a whole lot of it. I know that was my experience. I was going to be a nurse. I learned first semester I was not going to be a nurse. And how many kids experience that? With ELOs, it's amazing what Caribou's doing right now, and I would be super impressed. I will be super impressed when we dive into it in that way as well, where we're having opportunities for kids to have job shadows and internships and meaningful, you know, extended learning opportunities, whether it's within the school day or we're honoring the work that they're doing outside the school day as learning opportunities, because they are. My part-time job is a learning opportunity where it's informing me of maybe what I definitely don't want to do as an adult or what I do want to do. We think we have a really good opportunity with this. So that's one part of it, guiding students in creating action plans to address specific community challenges, direct students to design and execute campaigns to raise awareness about specific social or environmental issues of the community. So it's how do we get the students to have a voice in the process of what we're doing based on that. B, provide life skills opportunities. We heard that loud and clear from the parents that say, you know, students don't learn how to pick up after themselves. And you know, we're probably all thinking, well, those are things that you learn at home. It's not across the board anymore like that. Tying shoes and just those basic life skills from when you're this big to all the way to your, you know, a high school senior. We know that we have to play a role in that. We have to start talking about consumer sciences, and do we look at bringing back, they don't call it home ec anymore, but they have a new spin on that, but do we bring back some of those programs where we're teaching kids how to sew buttons, we're teaching kids how to balance checkbooks, and we're doing all those things, because those are things that the community is really talking about and hoping that we can offer. Expanding and refining pathways to graduation, that's an obvious. How do we do that? How do we do more than just say you can go to the CTE, or you can take early college, or you can just take your regular classes? How do we make that more customized? And I think the ELO is going to make that full circle. Promote responsible use of technology. So that's, again, where we heard that loud and clear. Technology is a thing. It's not going anywhere, but we've got to get these students prepared for the dangers, the positives, the negatives, and everything in between, and not be a slave to email and text messaging and all of that. And then increasing the quantity and variety of after-school learning opportunities for students. So that's from here right to the other building. How can we enhance and make it more attractive for students to stay at school and extend their day? So that's what we're looking at for strategic priority 1. For priority 2, prioritizing relationships. And I'm just going to summarize. I'm not going to go through every point, but strengthening relationships among learners, school, and community. Engaging in positive and transparent communication to promote trust and understanding. And then increasing in community involvement in school-based programs. How are we going to do that? And so you can read through those activities. And those are just sample activities. We'll probably dive into more than that, but we definitely want to at least scratch the surface with those. Strategic priority 3, safety, health, and wellness. So it's that whole child education where we know that, you know, yes, you're coming here to learn math, reading, writing, but there's so much more about educating that whole child. Fort Kent Elementary's already done a great job, you know, with their PBIS foundational work last year. We're going to continue with that, and CHS with their restorative practices build upon that and make sure that we're taking care of the whole child. And we do have a push to align to Maine's supports, multi-tiered systems of supports where we're going to use that framework. Cultivating a positive and inclusive school culture, fostering a safe and secure physical environment, and then promoting lifelong wellness habits. We are at a place in the world that is just amazing. Yet we probably have 50% of our students that have never been to the Allagash River before, and that's probably a high number. You know, it's probably less than that. So how can we enhance that through our partnerships? And we already have some of those partnerships, like the Allagash Wilderness Waterway Foundation and the Fort Kent Outdoor Center. How can we strengthen and build that so that we can really promote those lifelong wellness habits? And then finally, strategic priority 4 was one that came out loud and clear, and I was like, okay, we did a lot of work pre-COVID on this, but it seems like COVID kind of took it and made it not yucky, but confusing again. And that's because we had to go from a system that we were developing to now stripping everything and saying, no, everyone stay in their own box and we have to do it just like this. And that's what COVID did with a lot of things. But we know that the work that we've been doing over the past 7 years with PBE is not lost work. And it was reflective of the group that if we're truly going to make kids life ready, we should understand that it's important that we stick with this PBE system, because that's what life is. Either you're ready to do something or you're not, and if you're not, you're going to work on those skills until you're ready, while at the same time honoring the fact that we do have early college kids that are not going to be on a PBE system. So how do we tailor that to make that work for those kids? So develop consistency and implementation and utilization among teachers. And we gotta see across the board, eye to eye. Set clear learning and scoring practices within the system. Students and parents and guardians will understand PBE better. We need to educate better. And there's a variety of ways we can do that. And then we need to strengthen and honor our habits of work because that's the foundation that all of that sits on. So this is the results. We did want to honor our core values and our profile of a graduate, so we did that on the back cover. A lot of these documents you get sometimes, and they're like the handbook, they're 30, 40 pages because you're acknowledging this group and acknowledging these people. We said, let's keep it simple, let's keep it to the point, and let's try to make it achievable. One thing that I would like to speak with you as a board as we move forward into this plan is creating a timeline of how we get this done. Because this is great and it's really nice, but if it goes on the shelf because we get busy with our day-to-day and we don't have clear goals and objectives on how we're going to do this, it's never going to get done. And we have 5 years to get it done. So creating a timeline of how we get that done, and whether or not that's you being part of that process of developing that, or you tasking our team to do that for you and bring it back for you. I'll say like Mr. Neto, we're here to serve the board, at the pleasure of the board, so we'll do whatever you wish, but I think that's got to be an important part of making sure that, that this is alive and it's moving forward.
I agree, yeah, because that was my only question of how are we going to measure this and how are we going to track it? Because I think it's a great document. It's really great ideas.
And it might be as simple as saying, okay, this school year focus on this priority. Next school year build on this following priority. Or we're hitting on each of them a little bit at a time. And that's for us to decide as a group.
I find some points though kind of like mix.
They do.
So it's kind of hard to be like black and white saying like let's just work on one and then
there's a lot of overlap.
There is, yeah.
And some of it's, it's aspirational, which is, I know, the point of a strategic plan, not particularly clear on what the end is.
Right.
So, it feels like the first step is probably going to be what are the outcomes we're looking for, and then how we're going to measure them, whether we're successful. What are the thoughts on the steps there? Once this, let's say this is approved, how do we set actual objective goals? Because this doesn't have objective goals. This has kind of aspirations for general movement in a direction, but it doesn't say like we're going to have this implemented.
And part of the reason that didn't fall in here is because some of those things are going to be financially motivating or not motivating. So I think that the best way to do that is in the form of a timeline where we're saying, okay, between this point in time and this point in time, we're working on this objective with these goals, and then you set that with the outcome, with the desired outcome of this. We didn't want to build a timeline for you and then ask for your permission to say, is this good? We wanted your feedback on, how you envision that, because I can't come to you and say, we need to hire a consumer science teacher, next school year. Well, I can ask it, but, if it's not part of how we grow and develop this plan, I think it's just, we're just trying to check boxes off that are really not going to make a difference.
Mm. No, I agree, but I guess my question is from this point on, how does it coalesce? Like, where does it come together? Like, where do things become real? Like, you're going to bring, is it going to be an individual thing we bring before the board at each meeting is going to be how it ties into this? Or is there going to be a step back and say, this is a strategic plan, what does this look like in 5 years? What does the success look like for us? And then the board takes a look at that, what success is, and we see what we need to do to get to that point. Or do we do it meeting by meeting, drip by drip? Like, well, this fits with the strategic plan, this doesn't fit with the strategic plan.
I honestly, my initial thought, and my school principals have already, they already knew what was coming, so a lot of your school-wide goals this year are in response to this. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be a vehicle that really drives this, because they're the people, the teachers and the administrators are the people, boots on the ground, who are going to get it done for us. Mm-hmm. So really tapping into those school-wide goals as a way to drive this, I think is going to be the best part. As far as reporting out to the board, and I don't think we need to be discussing this every meeting.
No,
but
no.
But I do think, regular updates on, hey, this is what we've done in this quarter, and it's hit here, 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 and here, and, this is what we need from the board to approve in order to get it to the next step. And that might be, some financial asks, it might be some, policy changes, it might be that type of stuff. If that makes sense. Mr. Neto and Mr. Doucette, you were part of this process. Do you have anything to add?
I'll go. So as we're kind of forming the strategic plan, we're looking at how do we work with the community, how do we get kids to learn and work with the community, and we're looking at kind of like what we already do. So, our first grade last year went nursing home visits. We had some members of nursing home come here and visit us. Our third grade team does the flowers at the different places around town. So there's already bits and pieces that we kind of do and get into the community. I think the question is, how do we do that on a grade level basis where kind of everybody has their own role to play? Not everybody can visit the nursing home. Not everybody can do the flowers. So everybody has a distinct piece. Little things like where Saucier used to take a student council in town, and they would chalk up all around town different things about kindness and anti-bullying type messages. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can get our kids into town and really showing kind of our community what we're all about. I don't think that's rocket science. Like we can do that.
Right.
But that's an articulable, that's an articulable goal, right? That's a thing that you can say, we did it or we didn't do it. And I think that's the piece that always worries me with strategic plans is unless you're doing something, we're just wasting our time.
Right.
And in order to know whether or not the strategic plan is successful, we need to set goals and then meet them. It's insufficient to just backfill and say, everything we did met our goals, yay. That's not helpful, and I think that's my only, anytime we get one of these, I feel like we need to take a minute to talk about, it's not enough to talk about it, we need to actually do things.
Yeah.
And
maybe that's the directive from the board is, okay, so here, strengthening relationships among learners, school, and community. What are some specific goals you're going to set in order to show us that you're either meeting those or you're not within this framework of ideas that we have?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
To see that we're actually doing something.
Yeah.
Steve?
I was talking about the importance of culture and the importance of speaking clearly and succinctly, and this document stands in contrast to as it needs to, I think, in contrast to the policy manual, where it does those things. It's very high-minded. It speaks to culture and values, relationships, community involvement. It actually has the core values thing of being respectful, responsible, honest, and engaged and invested at the very end. But it's not that long a document. And everything in it seems to relate to those kinds of values. Community connection, personal dignity, stuff like that, which is great. And it looks good too. But I think there's an elephant in, here it comes. There's an elephant in the that we're missing. This is all based on a foundation that the students who come through K to 12 are proficient in reading and mathematics and science. And we're not meeting basic minimum standards for proficiency in any of those three categories, in my opinion. Honest people can differ about this. U.S. News Report just released with their college rankings. They're the outfit that ranks colleges, Princeton is at the top or whatever. But they also rank high schools and middle schools and elementary schools. They ranked ours. And I won't go into those rankings. You can find them if you want, but they're not pretty, right? And I don't say this to denigrate the hardworking and committed teachers in this school, who I know are doing great work. The best evidence of it is the fantastic culture here that Jen noticed. Wow, what a great culture. So we're highlighting our culture in our plan, but we're not picking up on where we're weak. And as difficult as it is, I think to be doing our job, we need to be highlighting where we're weak and saying we're going to pour energy into making us strong. And it happens that the areas where we're weak are at the core of the educational mission. For instance, the high school has a 28% math proficiency rate, which means that 28% of our students are performing at the expected level.
Based on the news report.
Well, but that's based on the actual.
Yeah,
state.
that's all driven by the College Board and finances and they.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
But they actually, and let me just step back and say, I'm not suggesting that this is the gold standard, but it's a good indicator. You know, it's something I think we have to pay attention to, lacking a truly objective, truly fair assessment, which, by the way, our own assessment tools don't necessarily give us. Here's the thing. If you say you need to be respectful, you need to be responsible, you need to be honest, and you'll be engaged and invested, and there'll be a test on that Tuesday, and we're going to give you your score at the end. It doesn't work that way, right? These are very important things. Arguably, they're more important than the stuff I'm talking about. Arguably, they are, because they're essential to making a society that works, and where people can live together harmoniously, and so forth. But there's no way to measure that. That doesn't mean they're not important. They are absolutely important. That's why I think what this does is so important in that regard. But still, we got to get the students doing their reading, writing, and science, right? Their math, their science, their reading. Our scores are not high enough. And so if this said, oh, and by the way, we're not satisfied, you don't have to say, it doesn't have to say, oh, we're really in the dumps, or, you know, shame on us, Harrisher. All it has to say is, we are not satisfied with these results. And we commit in this document to doing better. That's all it takes. And I think we have to. I don't know what we're doing if we're not, because everything else is built on that core. So as we send people out into the world to be lifelong learners, we don't give them the basics they need to continue learning and to qualify for doing jobs we don't, as Robin said, we don't even know what they're going to be. We don't give them the fundamentals. They will not be lifelong learners. They will be lifelong wage slaves. Don't kid yourself, there are people who would like to see that, all right? But that shouldn't be us people. We want our students to go out and be happy and to make their way in the world. But to do that, one of the components is basic proficiency in the basic things that the students are supposed to learn in school and that we're supposed to be teaching. So that's the only comment I have about this. It's a very nice document. I think a very well thought out document that highlights what we do best, but unfortunately fails to mention where we most need improvement.
What's that?
Can I add something?
Please.
Okay, I'm listening to this and I understand that some of the most passionate students that graduate from our school aren't going to be proficient at math ever, or at language, English language arts ever. And I think teaching to a whole student and a whole child is what we need to focus on too. To say that we'll never get the 100% proficiency rate would be like, that's never going to happen. Do I think that some of the proficiency rates could be driven up? Yes. But I think this strategic planning plan is showing us that we are doing right in a lot of ways of making these learners lifelong learners. It's a matter of what you define as success. What's being successful? Are they contributing citizens to society? Are they detrimental citizens to society? And looking at what they're proficient at and what they're not proficient at in school it's a great start, but I don't think it's the most important. Personally, I think when you look inside of a classroom of students, you have a lot of different learning going on. And some of the kids who might be the most successful might not be the proficient ones, grade-wise in school. I know a lot of very successful people whose school is not their thing.
And so getting them career ready and lifelong learning ready might be where they're gonna stand out. So we just look at that.
But I will say, if we're creating an aspirational document, we should aspire for all. And that includes ELA and math. And I mean, I think we've approached a level of anti-intellectualism where if you refer to a book, it's a joke. I think there's room for everyone at the table, isn't there? Like, we can aspire to do more everywhere. I think that's what Dave's saying, not that we should to the exclusion or anything else. And I think I agree with him. I think we should aspire to be more, and I feel like we can. And I think this community can do it, I really do.
People think we're dumb up here. You ever have that feeling?
Every day.
You have it. What's that?
Every day.
But when you interact with other professionals in the state of Maine, one of the things lawyers find is they don't think we're very smart. Because we go live in a place like Fort Kent. How bright could you really be? How successful could you even be in a place like Fort Kent? Now, that's not the general perception of Fort Kent. Fort Kent is pretty proud of themselves, and rightly so, I think. But out of state, there's kind of a problem with that, right? And, well, they're wrong, right? And we know they're wrong. We see it every day, we work with folks. The folks here, the people in the valley, are no different than the people in Cape Elizabeth, except that the folks in Cape Elizabeth have a lot more money. And they have a generation or two leg up on the rest of us, right? They have wealth and they have advantages that go with wealth. And that gives them an advantage. And so for us to expect to compete on a level playing field with richer communities than us, ain't gonna happen. Does that mean we can't compete? Absolutely not. Does that mean our competition should be even about the same things? Obviously, not everybody's gonna go to college, right? In fact, I have to say, when you look at the whole finances of the whole thing, and I think about my friends who are plumbers and electricians, and who are very capable and smart people, makes a lot of sense to me, maybe to go to Northern Maine Community College, right? Or you can have a very rewarding life, even doing farm life. A very full life. It's endlessly interesting. So we have all these ideas about success. I'm perfectly willing to scrap all of that. Part of that willingness comes from growing up in a community where people did everything. And success wasn't measured by how much money you made, necessarily. And we all went down to BJ's and had a drink, at the end of the hard day. It doesn't happen anymore, but, and at any particular table, you would see professionals sitting with the trash collector, sitting with the teacher, sitting with the plumber. Because we all came up through the school system together. We know each other, we respect each other. We understand that the most important marker of success is not how much money you make. It's the kind of life you make for yourself in your community. That's a very special thing that we can offer kids in Fort Kent. They can't offer kids in a lot of other places. I was reading something this weekend about a philosopher of farm life. He was saying, he talked to an Amish guy. He says, I don't get kids today. He says, they're all talking about finding themselves. I gotta find myself. They have tremendous pressure to find themselves. Because I always thought the goal was to lose yourself. To lose yourself in engagement in your community, engagement with your family, engagement with those you love, those you work with. We have a measure of that in this town, and in the valley here. It's ebbing away like so many other values in modern society. It's like, it keeps eroding. The waves keep lapping at it. But we still have a very special community here. I love that this document celebrates those values. But we should not sell ourselves short into thinking we can't master basic reading, writing, and arithmetic here. Because we absolutely can, and it's essential for our people to make a way in the world. Make a way in the world. That doesn't mean you have to go to college. It doesn't mean you have to be a professional by any means. But it does mean that you have to know how to read a tape rule. So you can tell the guy who you're cutting for up on the scaffolding that 1/16 of an inch that you need to cut off. You know, you have to understand that basic stuff, and that's what you learn in school. It's not optional.
I would wage that every single teacher in this district is striving for that.
I believe
One thing that Cape Elizabeth will never see, and Yarmouth will never see, is an economic disadvantage number over 2, 3, 4%, where ours are 20, 21, 22%. And so when we have so many children coming here with their basic needs not being met, and we're trying to teach them how to just be proficient readers and writers and mathematicians, they're thinking about supper, where's it coming from, and they're thinking about other God knows things. And I think that's a reality when we take a look across the state at affluent communities and non-affluent communities and who are at the top of that list of performing schools. The superintendent of Yarmouth will tell you, I better be at the top of that list. I better be, because there's no excuses. And I
Imagine if he wasn't.
Right? I believe Yarmouth was number 3 on that list this year, and he had outrage from community members.
Really?
Why aren't we number 1? And so that's their reality.
In defense of the high school, I want to say too that, I mean, we're doing the best we can. Like you said, the teachers are doing the best they can. We have interventionists for mathematics. We have interventionists for English. We have that at the middle school level. We have it at the high school level. And just like you wouldn't measure success with money, I would measure success with how well someone can do a test with little bubbles filling in the answers. I think those ratings are flawed. I think we have one of the best schools in Maine as far as well-rounded kids. They might not all be going to a 4-year college, but a lot of them are owning homes by the time a kid gets out of a 4-year college with a degree in philosophy that it's not going to be used for anything.
Easy.
Oh, that was a dig. That was a dig. He knows.
So, you know, in the grand scheme of
I don't
things-
send paperwork before it's been approved, though.
That was one of my favorite classes in college, but still. You know, in the grand scheme of things, we have very well-rounded kids. We have some of the best athletes in the state. We've got kids that are graduating with an associate's degree from UMFK by the time they graduate. We've got a lot to offer, and I could drum up some statistics for you for the next meeting, but it's not as dire as it may seem when you look at the paper. And I too, my heart sank, and it sinks every year when I look at the ratings of all the schools, and you see, you know, all these schools, you know, even Nadeauiii rated so high. But I can guarantee if you ask anyone that visits all of these valley schools, which one seems to be the most robust and happy and having a culture, like you were saying, of you know, kids that have good core values and are enjoying their educational experience as a whole, Fort Kent will topple. So I just feel that needs to be said as well. So, but should we strive for better and more and higher
Always.
scores? Absolutely.
We
but
can always
don't
improve.
think for a moment that we're not, you know, or that we're ignoring that once, you know, at all. We're doing the best we can for sure. We'll never stop trying.
I think the strategic plan that's detailed and provided to us echoes the community comments that I've been hearing over and over and over and over again, and it's valid. You know, the kids need to learn how to balance a checkbook, and it's just not happening. Parents are not teaching them just the basic life skills. They're not getting that at home, and I think that we should at least offer that. So I think the only thing it's missing is a timeline.
Yep.
And way to measure it, and what our end goal is going to be.
Yep.
And otherwise, I think it's great.
Can I add on to like what Katie was saying with just regular everyday life? Is that something that we can implement in like a daily schedule? Like for me, I have 2 little ones in school now, and one day is library, one day is music, one day is release. You know, can we add in where there's something like that, like folding blankets, you know?
Like home ec or something.
Correct. Like, can we add that in a one day where they have to do something like that, instead of just, oh, well, if whoever wants to do it can, but not everyone's going to send people to release, or, you know.
There's different electives.
Yeah, well, I envision that we can easily create a K-12 matrix of just basic skills. So in pre-K, you know, can we sprinkle in some classroom lessons about how to tie your shoe? I don't know. I'm just throwing that one out there, okay? And then, you know, and you have a couple of things. It's not diverting your whole curriculum. Now I can't teach math and I can't teach reading. No, can you embed in your math lessons these basic life skill things that every kid should need? And then in kindergarten, we build upon that. And then first grade, second grade. I think by the time we get to middle and high school, though, we need to have some hard conversations about some not only electives, but some required courses that every kid should have, so that we can say, we taught them that. You know, whether or not they learned it or became proficient about it, we had the opportunity to teach them that, and I think that's the way we have to approach it.
Do we still have like that life skills? I recall like people of my age saying that was being offered here.
That's different.
Yeah, we have a special education life skills program. It's only for special education students.
So like, I mean, not elective,
No.
life skills.
It's completely.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know, it's just
Yeah.
life skills. You know, having that as an elective, like, that's what I would like to see.
Mhm.
I'd like to see home ec brought back, where people can make more than toast.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, they can cook something, or sew something, or whatever, if that's what they choose to do.
Yep.
I don't know, is that the goal?
Well, that's part of the conversations, because you know as well as I do, if you bring something in, what's going to be removed in order to fit that new thing. So we're going to have to prioritize how we think about this. So that's why I think if we can use the people that we have to deliver some of that, and not come ask this board to, can we hire 2 more people at the elementary school who are going to deliver life skills, and then 2 more at the high school? Well, we don't need to bring in new people to do that when we have people who can do that. We just have to think as a staff, and we'll work with our leadership team on that, is how do we do that in a way that, you know, is possible. We all have life skills that we can teach our kids, and we're doing it every day, but how do we do that with, you know, with concrete standards, goals? They have standards that exist for consumer sciences. We can tap into those and develop, you know, something where we're teaching these kids these skills.
Yeah, I think like back when I was in high school, like a week of our accounting class or whatever, maybe it was like a month. You know, we focused strictly on bank statements, checking books, and, you know, just that one thing. So we were just even curtailing the curriculum a little bit to include those little pieces. But I was also very, 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 very sad to see that the welding opportunity was taken away from our students.
Welding?
Yeah.
We have.
They didn't have an instructor?
No, we have welding. It was electrical.
Oh, electrical, yes. I'm sorry.
And Kevin Lavoie right now is working with Northern Maine Community College to find a solution. So we're working hard on that. Yeah.
So that was really,
Yep.
that would be sad.
Yes, absolutely.
To see we can.
Yep.
Do you think it would be helpful to put together a list of those things we, as a board, think that our students should, for the most part, be able to do by the time they graduate?
The more information, the better.
Like, you know, key, I think to some of what Dave's saying, you know, like we'd like to aspire to have proficiency at X rate.
Yep.
To what you're saying, we'd like to see if they can perform these basic skills within their home life for graduation. I think that's really the opportunity to see where the rubber hits the road.
Mm-hmm.
And we can map that, we can see how we're doing, right?
I think that's all that this plan is missing, is that it's just together.
Yep.
So I don't know what kind of motion to propose, but I would propose it.
It's on the sheet.
Huh?
It's on the sheet.
I know, but are we approving it based off of what's given to us and then we're gonna
There's
build
a-
upon it?
Yeah, a strategic plan in nature is a breathing document. So, you know, it's gonna, as we dive into this, you know, it's gonna pull in pieces from different places, and you're just approving the shell of the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
under that. Motion to approve the SAD 27, strategic plan 2028.
Have-
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
What's the motion?
To approve the strategic plan. We had a second. All those in favor? Sorry. Okay, opposed? One abstention?
One abstention.
Did have a school tour, informal, and just, encouraging you to walk down the hallways and just take a peek at some of the things. This room has been totally transformed, if you haven't noticed. Brand new floor, paint, just amazing. It'd be nice for the board to see a squeaky clean school, because it won't be like that in a few months.
Doesn't take long, yeah?
Doesn't take long. Doesn't that be adjourned?
Get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Sarah, second?
I'll second.
Thank you.